Hello, hello, welcome, welcome.
Hello.
All right, we'll give a chance for everyone to get in here. This is toe up socks this week, so make sure you're in the right place. Welcome, welcome. This is the, was it 33rd Tutorial Tuesday? I can't remember, Laura.
It is.
33. Awesome.
It
Wow.
is. Almost old enough to be president. Although I guess not, because that's American politics, not Canadian.
All right, welcome, welcome, hello. Yep, make sure you open your chats and let us know where you're from. We kind of like to do that too sometimes. And be prepared because we do have our $20 gift certificates to give away. So get ready for that. And Laura's going to be asking questions and getting us ready for that. All right. All right, it looks like almost everyone. We keep getting more and more. But yeah, all right, let's get started. And I'm Suzanne Nielsen, and this is the 33rd, we said, Tutorial Tuesday, so welcome. We're going to be doing toe up socks this month. So hopefully if you signed up for this one, then you're automatically signed up for the rest, so you don't have to worry about getting into the rest. But remember that our last session is going to be just more of a fun time where we get to do a little show and tell. So get ready for that one. You can bring anything that you've made in Zen, I'll say, and especially like the things we've done in the last tutorials. And we will be giving away prizes during that time too. So be prepared. All right. And yep. Anything else, Laura, that I forgot?
Nope, I'm Laura. I am usually a sample knitter with Zen, and I have added the pattern, the PDF, to our chat. It's also a free pattern on Ravelry. You can download it from there and add it to your library, but it's right there in the chat if you would like it. So I'm gonna let Suzanne get to it, and I'll be back towards the middle. We have two $20 gift cards today. So yeah.
Yay. All right. So I am going to be showing today the toe up socks, obviously, but I'm going to use circulars. So first I'm going to use circulars, and then I'm going to do the same one in double points. And so you can see it both ways. And I'll also show a couple different ways, but let's just get to that. All right. So with double pointed needles, let's see, here's our yarn. And again, this yarn or this pattern just takes 150-gram skein. So they're a little bit smaller socks than, they're just very short. And Zen does have these 50-gram skeins available. So if you want to join us with this actual yarn, you can still get some of that. But to start out with, the pattern calls for a figure 8 cast on in toe up socks. And that is, you start with a slip knot, and then you do a figure 8. I'm actually going to show you a way that I think is much easier, and I'll show you the difference too. So first, we're going to do a slip knot and place it on the bottom needle. So the figure 8, I'll just show you. The figure 8 is normally you make a figure 8 around the needles. So if you can see that, you make this figure 8, just wrap in a figure 8 fashion. I find that a little bit fiddly. Plus, when you go back, you have to knit into the back loop to get it not to twist. So my preferred method is just to do a wrap-on cast on. So for that, you just put a slip knot on the bottom needle. You hold both of the needles parallel in your left hand. And again, that slip knot's on the bottom needle. And then we're going to go behind the needles over the top, and that's considered one wrap. So we want, it says we're going to do 20 stitches or 10 stitches on each needle. So we're just going to do 10 wraps, and that will get us 20 stitches on each needle. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, pretty easy there. Then we just let our yarn come to the back. We have our wraps here. and we pull the bottom needle out. So the bottom needle comes out, and then you can see all the stitches are just sitting on the cable now. And then we knit across these stitches. So I always pull it out, and when I'm doing circular, I make sure that I kind of give my cable a little twist so that I see it kind of across, or the needle crosses over the cable before I start knitting, and that keeps the join or the edge from splaying out. And I can show you more of that more later. But then we just knit across. So that's, and I'll show this continental also, but knit across 10 stitches. Did I miss one? No, okay, so that was 10. And we see our slip knot is hanging out here on the bottom cable. That slip knot is we're gonna pull it out. I hate leaving slip knots in knitting, so I never do that. But then from here, we're going to I pull the cable or push this needle into the stitches. And then just do a turn so that now you're working on the other stitches that are on the top. And we push this needle in, and we pull the needle out this way.
You can easily do this on double pointed needles. You would still do your wraps around 2 double pointed needles, and then you could start to work the stitches on any number of double pointed needles you'd like. You can use
Exactly.
3 or 4.
Yep, and I'm going to show that also next.
Okay.
So
sorry, we had a question. That wasn't just me.
Perfect. No, that's good. So now I see this slip knot hanging out, and I'm just going to let it slip off and pull it out. So we have no slip knot left. And then I get my cable to kind of cross with that twist, and then knit across here. And that one's a little loose. I can just, pull my slip knot or pull my tail to get that back. And then we're just normal knitting across. If you had done the figure 8 wrap, then you would have to knit into the back loops some of the time to get it not to twist. But in this method, you don't have to do that. So that's why I kind of like it. It's just nice and super simple. And then this cross one might be a little hard to get into. And that's it. So that was just one round of knit. And now our next round, we're going to be increasing. So now I'm going to switch and show you how to do that on double points. And then we'll come back to here, and I'll show you the increases, how to do the increases after the break probably. All right, so now I'm going to switch over here to double pointed needles. So like Laura was saying, with double pointed needles, you can do the exact same thing. And I am going to show you the 2 different ways. With double pointed, sometimes it's a little harder because you can't just pull that bottom needle out and let the stitches go onto the cable. You have the stitches that are hanging out kind of on the needle, and it makes it a little bit harder. So I'm going to try it here and we'll see. So same exact method. So we'll leave the slip knot on the bottom needle in our hands and go behind and wrap. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now this is where it just gets a little bit trickier because you can't pull this needle out. It's got to kind of stay there. But it's the same idea. You still go into this one. I would pull this a little bit forward and scooch this one down so that you can get the stitches off of it. But you just knit off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I am going to, at this point, I'm going to divide them evenly. So I'm going to do 5 here. I'm going to pick up another double pointed needle, kind of maybe get this one out of the way. And I'm going to do the next 5 on this other one so that I'm already kind of evenly distributing them. Do you do it this way, Laura, or do you knit across and then distribute later?
What I did, so I normally like to knit on 4 DPNs and use my 5th as the one that moves. But for the first couple rounds on a sock, I usually use 3. I use like 2 on the top and 1 on the
Okay.
bottom, because 4 is just a lot, especially when you don't have a ton of stitches.
Right.
The process of starting a sock from toe up can be a little fiddly because you're using small yarn and lots of needles. And so the first couple times you do it, it does feel fiddly and you do feel awkward. So just know that in advance. And you can do it on as few or as many needles as you'd like. But I find that at least distributing one side over 2 needles keeps it from pulling too tight. I find if you're just knitting on like a top and a bottom needle, it's just a little too tight to get into the stitches at the end.
Yeah. So I just finished here. Whoops. I just finished knitting these top 5 stitches, and I am going to distribute it to 4 needles, or yeah, to using a 4. So I turned, and now I'm working on those needles that are on, or the stitches that are on here. So I should have 10 stitches and my slip knot. So again, you just let the slip knot come off and pull it out, and then continue on. So I'll knit and see, it looks crazy, but just keep going.
It does look a little awkward, but it gets easier over time.
Yeah,
and once you have your
sure
first couple rows done, it will be much easier.
Yes. So we're going to knit 1, 2, 3. Sorry. 4. Can you see these well enough? 4, 5.
Well, and what we're doing is we're basically in our top down socks. Remember, we Kitchenered the toe, basically eliminating the Kitchener by using this cast on and creating a perfectly seamed toe. So you won't have to go back and do anything on this one.
Right. So now I knit 5, and now I'm going to use my last needle to knit the next 5. All right. And now I have this craziness that looks crazy, but it's really will straighten out and we can see it. So now I have 2 needles that are like the bottom half, I'll say. Just move that one around. And 2 needles that are kind of the top half.
And what that refers to is 2 needles on the bottom will be the sole of your sock, the part that goes under your foot, and then 2 will be kind of the instep, the part that goes on the top of your foot. Would you consider casting onto 2 DPNs and then transferring it after you've cast on? It could perhaps be less fiddly. You can knit the first round on just those 2 DPNs if you want. I find that at the mechanics of it are such that at the ends, those stitches end up a little tight.
It's really hard to kind of get around, but you could do it with just 3 instead of distributing it all on all 4. So anyway, so this is the same. Now I have, like, on this one I have 10 stitches on the top and 10 stitches on the bottom, and on this one I have the 10 stitches, but they're divided, so I have 5, 5, 5, 5. But it looks like I did lose a stitch here somewhere, so anyway, we'll work that out, but that's the gist of it. So let's take a break, and we'll do one of the gifts, or we'll do the gift certificates.
We can do that.
And then I'll show you increasing on the next round.
Okay. Right. So open your chat windows. And the first question that I will ask is, what pattern are we knitting this time around?
Ooh, good one.
Okay, the first one to get it is 29 Ways with the simple summer socks. So 29 Ways, go ahead and contact Zen and give her your email address, and she will get you a gift card. Okay, the second one is, what cast on are we using? Okay, we'll go with Denise, who said the wrap. The pattern does also talk about the figure 8 cast on, but Suzanne just walked us through the wrap. Figure 8 is just a little bit different. So Denise, go ahead and let Zen Yarn Garden know your email address and she will get you a gift card. Congratulations to our winners.
Yay. And I, at the end here, I can show the figure 8 one too. I did kind of talk about how it's a little bit different, but they're basically the same. It's just that,
Okay,
then you have to do some other.
While we're still both on, I will show you. I cast on for my toe today, and I actually
Nice.
did do it precisely in the pattern, including the figure 8 cast on. I do have it on 4 DPNs, but what I was going to show you is that once you start knitting your toe, this creates a really lovely, let's see if I can get it to focus. See, it looks like you have Kitchenered the bottom, but you have not. You're basically working out from both sides of your toe so that you get this really lovely toe. And then as you start to do your increases, now this is just the toe section of the pattern. We won't complete this tonight, but the next thing we're going to talk about is how you're making your increases that are creating this edge at the toe. Remember when we knit the top down, we did a lot of decreasing to get around the toe to make it a little bit smaller. And now we're going to be doing increases, and Suzanne is going to teach us how to do make one right and make one left, which are the increases favored in the pattern.
Yay. All right. So, let's go back to my hands. And now, so we did already the cast on and we knit one round, and now we're going into the increase round. So in the pattern, it says, really what we're doing is we're going to increase after one stitch and then before the end stitch. And then on this side, we're going to increase also on the sides. So we're increasing on the toes as we go out, just like on the top down socks, we decreased to get to here. Now we have to increase out to get to the circumference of our foot. So I have some little tricks to help, or my little, I don't know, rhyme that I made up, not really a rhyme, to remember how to do a left leaning decrease or increase and a right leaning increase. So make one left because it goes to the left or goes to the left, and a right leaning decrease leans to the right. So first, it's just, so I pulled out my needle again, I get my little cross, and I do a knit one, and now I'm going to make one left. So my little way to remember it is I say, I left the front door open, so I'm going to be right back. So I know that left and front go together. I left the front door open. So what that means is that you're going to take your left needle, and you can use your right needle to help you, but basically the left needle tip is going to go into the front after you pick up the stitch or if you pick up the bar that's between the stitches. So I knit one, and then I find this bar down here, and I put my left needle into the front. And then I want this stitch to get twisted. So let me see if you can see it very well. Get some focusing here. So if I went into the stitch like normal, you can kind of see that I'd have this big hole here. So I know that when I go into the front, I need to knit through the back loop. So I'm going to go through the back loop when I knit this. So there through the back loop to knit that stitch, and that kind of closes up that hole. And then when I come across, I'm going to knit until there's one stitch left. And now I need to do a make one right. So I'll be right back because I left the front door open. So I'll be right back. That means that we take this bar and we go to the back of it. So here's that bar. You see it? And I'm going to go take my left needle and come from the back and into that. And now you can see if I went into the back of that stitch, it would leave a big hole. So I need to go into the front. So I always want to, close that hole up. So just think about which way you need to go to close the hole up. So I need to go into the front of this stitch. It's a little tricky to get into sometimes. So sometimes I kind of pull it out here, stabilize it with this finger, and then go into it. But knit that stitch from the front, which twists it, and then knit one. And then we do the same thing on the other side of the needle. So I pull this needle into those stitches, turn, and pull this needle out. And push this needle into the stitches. Okay, I'm going to try and do this throwing so that you can see a little bit better. But again, we do knit one stitch. And then we're going to make one left. So we left the front door open. So we're going to take our left needle and go into the front of that bar that we raised. And then we want to close it up. So we're going to knit into the back of the stitch to twist it. All right, and then we just work our way across. Again, I'm super awkward when I knit this way. But once we get to the other side, it will be the make one right. And then you do a round of just knit and then a round of increases. So you alternate those two rows for the toe. And that's what we're going to cover tonight. And then next week, we'll cover setting up for that lace section on the toe.
We did have a quick question on casting on for 2 at a time.
Okay, I'll go through that. Yeah, that's a good one. All right.
Yeah, so if we have a chance.
Yep. I'll show, again, this is make one right. So we'll be right back. So we're going to take this back needle and go, the left needle and go through the back, come from the back to pick up that bar. And then we're going to knit it from the front. So I just use my needle to kind of pull it out to make it a little easier for myself to get into. And now I'm going to knit that without splitting the yarn, knit that stitch from the front so that it twists nicely and covers up that hole. And then I just finish with my knit stitch. And then when I pause, I usually always kind of pull my needles into the stitches to leave them. So now you can see, maybe you can see that we've got that toe started and it just looks like a row of knitting. Our cast on, you can't even tell, it's just knitting flowing into knitting, which is what we want. So let's see, how much time do we have here?
We have a couple minutes. It's only 6:22.
All right. So
sorry, it's 7:22 Eastern time. I'm in the central time zone. Actually, we both are.
We both are.
We have 8 minutes.
Okay, so I will quickly talk about on this set of needles. I can get it figured out here. So on this set of needles, we would be increasing, at the beginning, and then knitting across, increasing over here, and then increasing. So what you can do is, like in either one of these, you can place a stitch marker so that you know where your beginning of round is, so you don't get lost as you are going around. But either way, and like we said, you can distribute them a little bit differently. But still, you can see on here that we've got that toe forming, and it's just knitting going into knitting. So that's the basics. And I will show. Let's see if I can quickly get this going. Show toe up, 2 at a time, toe up socks. So you do need, I would say, like a 40-inch cable. A 32, you might be able to get away with a 32, but in general, maybe a 40-inch is nice and long so that you have them both. And basically you do the same cast on, but you just do it twice. And then what happens is you have your stitches sitting like this, and then you have another sock sitting here. And so every time you would kind of knit across this one and then across this and then do your other. So you're still like knitting in the round, but it turns out, and let's see, I will actually get it going for us. I'll take out this one. And we can do that. So again, I like that wrap on cast on. There's Judy's Magic Cast On is another one that does the exact same thing, but also in that one, you have to knit through the back loop to get it not to twist. So to me, it seems like you might as well just do the wrap on. So you tighten up your slip knot on the bottom needle and you do this wrap. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. And then you would just leave this here, get your next yarn. I wonder if I have another color here so that we can do, I'll do for this one, I'm going to do 2 different colors so we can see it easily. So let's see. Slip knot, place it on your bottom needle and wrap. It does get a little bit finicky, not finicky, but you just have to make sure you know, like, let's keep this tail back over here, or not tail, but the end. And then we'll again do our wrap. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we have both ends kind of over here. We can pull out our bottom. And then we're going to work across. So we'll knit 10 stitches. Then we'll see something interesting happen. And that is the interesting thing is that now I have my next sock kind of ready on the needle. So I'm going to drop the red yarn and pick back up the first one that I did. And still holding my needles kind of the same, just knit across with that yarn. And now when I turn, I'll still be using this color that I still have in my hand. So we can see how it's working. Now I have this sock and this sock. So I'm going to pull my needle into these stitches over here. Trying to do it so that it's easy to see what I'm doing. Okay, I pulled my needle in, turn it a little bit, and now pull out the bottom needle so that I can work across these stitches. So now I see that slip knot that I put in, and I can just let that slip knot come off the needle and pull it out, and then work across these stitches. And once we get to the end, we'll see the slip knot from the second pair or first pair, however you want to call it. All right, so now I need to drop this yarn because I finished that one. And now I come back to the first sock that I started. Here's that slip knot. You can see. So I let the slip knot come off, pull it out, and then knit across these stitches. And that, pull that, let's see. Oops. And knit across here. Okay, and then you're set up. So that was one knit round, and then the next round would be an increased round. So when you're ready to turn, I would kind of pull this needle into all the stitches. And that one out, pull this one in, and flip it until you're ready to work again. So it kind of turns out that you're working across, let's see, so this one will go in here. You're working across this sock first, and then you're doing this sock and then back here, and then you're finishing this sock. So yeah, that's how you do the 2 at a time. So again, you're doing the same thing. Like this one, you would start, but I would just always make sure that you work both socks before you stop. So you could put a little stitch marker, you know, that this is kind of your starting point here. And then knitting across and around. Does that make sense? I hope so, because we're about out of time. But any last minute questions?
I wanted to do a couple things. We have been getting asked lots of questions on needles.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to show a couple sock needles. And I also, Deborah, I see your question. We've circulated it. If I don't answer it with what I have, the only other person I can think of is Shayna. So we may have to ask Shayna, because so last month we got questions about needles. I was using some of these in my double points. And these right here are Jimmy Beans Smart Sticks. They're available at jimmybeans.com. And they are called Smart Sticks because they are marked off for every inch. So they are color coded, and this means these needles are 5 inches, and you can also use them to, they're called Smart Sticks because they can be used to measure your knitting. You can measure how long your cuff is. So if it says to knit for 1 inch, you can knit your cuff for 1 inch and measure that on these needles. The second set was, I got asked today what I was holding and what was in my sock. And these are not signature needles. These, although those are lovely too, I do have a set of those. I'm fairly needle agnostic. I have tons of different kinds of needles and I use them all kind of interchangeably. These are Knit Pro Zings. They are relatively inexpensive. They are color coded by size. Each set comes with 5. I'm just holding 4 because my 5th one was over there. And they are available from Webs. So I see Deborah, was it Shayna who had a double pointed needle protector with elastic in between? I have seen those, but I don't have those.
Yeah, I don't remember her having that.
One thing I do have, and you can find these on Etsy if you're at all interested, is I have what's called a needle cozy. And it is just a little fabric envelope with snaps in it. If you're handy, you can sew these too. And so the deal is that when your sock is on the needles and you need a place to put it, you can kind of fold your needles up and you can put them in the sock cozy. And then you can do the snaps. And when your sock gets longer, it will actually stick out here. But it does keep things set. Deborah, I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't know who had it or specifically where they came from. We can ask Shayna this week and see, and she'll be back later this month. I have seen those before, but I will have to do some looking to see if I can find where they are. Usually I just call them double point needle protectors. But
you make ones that just stick on that don't have the elastic between them. But yeah, I've seen ones too that have elastic that go on one side and then all the way over to the other. So that's kind of fun.
The person I know who used to do them
so
just
all
used
of
to
my
make them
needles are
herself out of erasers. So, and I don't think she does that anymore. So let me take a look and we will try and get back to you this week on that one.
Yeah.
So please join us next week. It's the same link. If you already registered for this one, you can just keep showing up using this link throughout the month. You'll get reminders. And as always, ask us on Facebook or email us at canwehelpyou@zenyardandgarden.com if you have questions.
Yep, we'll get back to that. Yeah. All right, bring your questions next time too. We'll try to cover a little bit more. And like I said, these are recorded too, so you can always go back and look.
Yes, I added the YouTube channel earlier. This will be up there later tonight or tomorrow.
Hey.
Okay.
Great. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Have a good night.